Hello, good evening and welcome. Welcome back to the channel on this cold autumn night. It is cold actually. I have just got out of the bath, had a nice hot bath to warm myself up. Obviously not just got out of the bath, I've got dressed and everything since doing that. And actually not long after I was out of the bath and had got dressed, little Maya came and meowed at me and I thought, oh, she wants a cuddle, and so I lay on the bed and she got on top of me and was doing biscuits and purring and so on. And I thought, she must love me very much. And then I realised, of course, that what she was actually doing was trying to suck all the bodily warmth out of me because I was hot from the bath. And as soon as she had done that, off she went. Off she went. And so I'm now resorting to warming myself up with a wee dram of Lafroig Scotch whisky. Delicious. Cheers, everyone. Oh, lovely. Smoky and delicious. So, Quareia, the Magician's deck. The reason I want to talk to you about this today is that this is another video in my Kind of Magic series. And I'm actually now, having done a video on, or a couple of videos on what magic is, and also a video on magical models, and I've described to you a number of different definitions of magic, including my own, which I've refined over several videos. And I've also talked to you about various different models of magic that different magicians employ. And in the last video we got into a bit of the link between magic and philosophy, and how a philosophy of life and reality and creation can really inform one's magical practice. And that stimulated actually quite a lot of discussion after the last video, both in my Facebook group, which is still called Tarot to the Ninth, because that's, you know, the group that I set up when I did that series. I might have to think about changing the name, or maybe I shouldn't. You can tell me what you think. But nonetheless, in that group and also under the last video, there was some discussion and debate about magical models and so on. And it just really kind of brought home to me that it is a fascinating subject and one that's really worthy of discussion. But it's also one where there aren't any easy answers. So, you know, if you're looking for the ultimate definition of magic, then I would suggest to you, I would humbly and respectfully say to you that it's unlikely that you're going to find it, because, you know, great magical minds over the centuries have debated exactly what magic is and what the best definition of magic is. And of course, although there is some commonality in their discussions, they don't all agree with each other. So I don't worry too much about getting the right definition of magic. I'm more interested in getting one that works for me and that fits with my worldview. And I would suggest that that's what you should be looking for as well in your own practice of magic. So what I want to do next in the series is to start talking a bit about practical magic. So what are some of the things that one can do in a magical sense that hopefully will enhance one's life and help one's whatever one wants their magic to be about, spiritual development, you know, improvement of circumstances, whatever it is, self-development, whatever it is for you, then now is the time for us to talk about, you know, what are some of the practices, what are some of the things we can do in that field. So I do want to go on to start doing that, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to interweave through those practical magic videos some walkthroughs of decks and resources that I have found which can be used within a magical practice. Now, I've already done one of these walkthroughs in one of my earlier videos, the live video I did a while ago, where I walked through the Chaos Magic deck called the 40 Servants. And it's a great deck, very interesting tool, and that provoked a lot of discussion and interest. And you know, a number of people said afterwards that they had got the deck and really enjoyed it. So I have a few more decks of that type to walk through as well, or slightly different, and also some decks that are a bit more familiar tarot decks, but that are related specifically to magical practice. This one, however, is not a tarot deck. It is very specifically a magician's deck. It's called Quareia, the Magician's Deck, and that's not actually the deck, of course, that is the book that goes with it. Here is the deck. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through it just so you can see what it is. And then, and then, you know, it'd be interesting to hear from you whether you feel this is a tool that you would be interested in using. Now, I should say up front, I have not used it yet in any kind of magical sense. I've had a good look through it, and I've read a bit of the book. The book is written by Josephine McCarthy. The deck itself is created by Josephine McCarthy, Cassandra Beanland and Stuart Littlejohn. And Josephine McCarthy is the key developer of the deck, I believe, and she's written a number of other books, mainly on ceremonial magic, so she comes from that kind of ceremonial magic current and is very highly regarded, I believe. I certainly find her writing in the book and what I've read online of her work extremely clear and interesting and captivating. So she really seems to know what she's talking about, and there are a couple of interviews with her online as well, audio interviews that are well worth seeking out and listening to, so she's very interesting. And when I learned about this deck, I thought I'm going to look into it a bit further, and so I got it and read the book, and I'm rather impressed. I think it actually is very, very interesting. And although she comes from a ceremonial magic current, if you like, I think you'll see when we go through the deck that it's not geared just to that kind of magic. In fact, it seems that what she's tried to do is dip below the surface of any one particular model of magic or magical facade, if you like, to see if she can find something that's a bit more fundamental, a bit more primal within magic. So I think probably the best thing to do is for me to read you some of the introduction before we go through the cards, and that might give you a sense of a bit more about the deck. I should say that you get the deck and the book separately. I bought them separately from I think from her website, and again I'll put the link below. The book is lovely, very well produced, lovely quality of cover, very readable, and it comes fully illustrated with colour images of each of the cards. So you know, if you were at all unsure about whether you wanted to get the deck, and you were able to get your hands on a copy of the book, you would get a very good sense of what the imagery is and what it says, and also what the thinking behind it is as well. But we'll come to that in a second. I'm going to read you a bit of the introduction so you get a bit of a sense of the context of the book, and then what we'll do is we'll go through the cards, and we'll see if what's said in the introduction does actually chime with what the cards look like. So I'll take a sip of water and a sip of whiskey. And if we are sitting comfortably, I'll begin. So, the introduction begins with a quotation from Plato, the Republic. "The soul takes nothing with her to the next world but her education and her culture. At the beginning of the journey to the next world, one's education and culture can either provide the greatest assistance or else act as the greatest burden to the person who has just died." So, the Magician's deck. Now, I should also point out that the full title of the deck is LXXXI, then Quareia, the Magician's deck. And I believe that is because the deck contains that number of cards. That's 81 cards, isn't it? I'm terrible with my Roman numerals. I think that means 81 cards. I should have checked that before I began. We'll find out as we go through. Anyway, the Magician's deck is a unique magical tool for 21st century magicians. The deck has 81 cards. Am I on fire or what? A mystical number that relates to completion. 81. 8 plus 1 is 9. Tarot to the nines. 9 is about completion. Go back to my Tarot to the Nines series if you doubt what I'm saying. It's all connected. It's amazing how these things weave together. Anyway, and it is divided into 4 realms. The divine realm, and those cards will have red borders. The inner realm, which will have blue borders. The physical world, which will have green borders. And the realm of death and the underworld, black borders. Cards which belong in 2 realms, or which are bridges between 2 realms, have borders containing both colours. So we'll watch for that as we go through. The Magician's deck is not based on any tarot system, but rather it draws on the mythic, mystical and magical powers that underpin the magical systems from which tarot eventually developed. Now, I probably am going to take issue with that, because that seems to be suggesting that tarot evolved from magical systems, and I would dispute that. I think it's more likely that tarot, well, we know that historically tarot was a game, and later on occultists superimposed their esoteric learning onto the deck. But we'll let that go for the second. Okay. It is based on real inner realms, real inner contacts, and beings and forces that the serious practitioner of magic is very likely to involve themselves with. Because of this approach, the deck works as a contacted deck, i.e., used magically, the images can act as gateways to inner realms, inner beings, and magical patterns. Now that would suggest to me that one could use this deck for divination, one could use it for invocation or evocation, one could use it to put the cards on one's altar as reference points for magical working, etc., etc. It is not a deck for casual tarot readers, rather it is a deck specifically designed for magical students, practitioners, workers and adepts working within the broad spectrum of Western magic. So that does seem to suggest it's not just about ceremonial magic. It can be used for magical divination or as a direct connection to inner contacts, as gateways for meditation, magical visionary work, soul exploration, or contacted ritual work. However, it is important that the aspiring initiate does not come to rely too much on such images as gateways. They are tools, along with many other tools that the magician employs on their path to mystical and magical development. To ensure that the images do not become entangled in magical misconceptions, we have moved away from the relatively modern use of particular names for the beings in the images. Instead, we have reverted to a very ancient way of presenting inner beings. We name them according to what they do. This way, there is no ambiguity about what a being actually is. Magicians from most magical systems will recognize many, if not all, of the beings in this deck, not from their images, but from what they do, where they are from, and what power they operate through. This approach enables magicians and practitioners from many different magical and spiritual traditions to recognize the powers in this deck and to work with them within their own magical system. The same theme runs through the two main layouts for the deck, in that each position tells its own story and has its own meaning. Now, I presume that means that there are layouts at the back of the book. The Tree of Life layout and the landscape layout, the foundation and mystical map layout. So there are three. I said there were two. The same theme runs through the two main layouts for the deck in that each position tells its own story and has its own meaning. Reading the card and the layouts positioned together, the magician can get a broad understanding of the answer to his or her question, so very much like a tarot reading. I suspect that the extra one is because it's an introduction to the second edition, which this obviously is. It was originally designed for the use of Quareia initiates and adepts, because so Quareia is a school that Josephine McCarthy pulls together. The second edition has been expanded with more detail. Yes, so I suspect that the extra reading is because of that. So, I'm not going to go through the whole of the book because obviously that would be too much, but just to say that the four realms reflect the four stages of creation and destruction. As such, they can be used magically to track a power or event. Is it still forming? Is it coming into physical manifestation? Is it physically active, or is it passing into removal? For mundane readings, the realms can represent the following pattern: an idea, that's the divine realm; the development phase, that's the inner realm; currently complete and active, that's the physical realm; and leaving or has died off, that's the underworld realm. As we go through the book, we will look at each realm in turn and investigate who the players are, what the powers are, and what they do. So that is the introduction, and as I say, each one of the cards has got a bit of information about it, and there are some layouts at the back of the book. So what we'll do is we'll go through the deck, and when we get to an interesting card, then we'll stop and I'll read you a bit about that card just so that you get a sense of what the deck is saying. So the backs of the card, nice firm but flexible cardstock. Glossy but not overly glossy. Rounded edges, they could be edged if you wanted to. And that is the image on the back of the deck, which is of course the face image that I showed you earlier. So let's go through them, and some of these I think you will recognise as being from the tarot kind of stream, but some you'll probably not recognise from tarot, but you'll recognise from other disciplines. So I think they're in kind of order. I don't think I got them out of order, but I'm not entirely sure. So we'll just have to go with it and see what comes of it. Starfather. Creator of time. Holder of light. Archon and Aeon. And because that's the last of the red bordered cards, I am going to read to you what it says about Archon and Aeon. The Archon and the Aeon are the threshold keepers of divinity. The two powers are opposing beings, a bit like the positive and negative poles of a magnet. They are archangelic in their structure and stand between divinity and the manifest outer and inner world. So this is the divine realm, obviously. Between them, they create an energetic tension that forms a barrier through which nothing is allowed to pass unless it truly belongs there. The two archangelic beings are divinity's guardians, its doormen. The Archon is the overseer who grants passage only to souls seeking a return to the holder of light, which is one of the earlier cards. The Aeon is the door opener who lets through the flow of the divine spark as it seeks to express itself in the inner and outer worlds. This card shows us the images of the two archangels. One holds a shield to protect. The other offers a cup. The cup dispenses the pattern of time, light into creation, and the shield protects the threshold of divinity. It also protects the magician from their actions by blocking them from stepping into the divine realm. The appearance of this card tells of a dangerous threshold that has been reached and which must not be crossed, for the power beyond this threshold is too great. While the power beyond the threshold is not destructive, its sheer might would threaten a mere mortal. When this card appears in a magical reading, it indicates that the magician has reached the threshold which it is not yet safe to pass across. Its advice is to stop and wait. So that gives you an idea of the kind of information that you get. And then, so that was the divine realm, I believe, which are the red ones. And then we move into the inner realm, and we start with the abyss. Wow, here we have the keeper of the abyss. Isn't that gorgeous? So that's rather lovely and makes me want to stop and read you a bit about the keeper of the abyss, because I want to know about the keeper of the abyss. Now, hang on. I think I've got some cards out of order here. We'll get there, so don't worry. So the Keeper of the Abyss. The Keeper of the Abyss is an archangelic being, sometimes described as Metatron. Although this power is angelic, it also has aspects of humanity within it. This being operates only as a bridge across and within the abyss and ensures that everything is in its place. It ensures that those who sleep down in the abyss stay there, and that those who must rise from the abyss do so, and that those who cross the abyss are assisted. So they all have a different role to play in this deck. So moving on, Protector of Souls, Weaver of Creation, Hidden Knowledge, Light Bearer, Very powerful, intuitive images. They remind me somewhat of, they're not as abstract, but they remind me a little bit of soul cards, although they're a bit more specific. In Prisoner, looks like an angel that's bound, doesn't it? Pure Balance. Inner Temple. I'd love to read you about all of these cards, but we just don't have time. Inner Librarian. I'm intrigued to know more about the Inner Librarian, so we will go to the Inner Librarian's page. The Inner Librarian is a major inner contact for many different types of magician who resides exclusively in the inner library. The inner library is a more accessible aspect of the inner temple and is usually the first place that apprentice and initiate magicians work as they develop their inner skills. The Inner Librarian is a consciousness that is both of humanity and also of a deity. This being is the keeper of human knowledge and works exclusively for the attainment and protection of knowledge and wisdom through the ages. When this card appears in a reading, it indicates that the magician would benefit greatly from working in the inner library and is potentially being called to work there. It can also indicate a new phase of learning, one insisted by inner guidance if the magician pays attention. And I'm noticing that my cards are slightly out of order because we're into the blue borders, which is a different part. But we're just going to plough on. Grindstone. Unraveler. Inner Companion. Guardians of the Inner Desert. Utterer. I love that. Look at that. The sort of like ticker tape of scrolls coming out of the mouth. Utterer. Keeper of Justice. Very powerful mythic images. Threshold Guardian. Now here's one that, two things to say about this. It seems to be a bridge between two levels because the top half of the card is blue and the bottom is green. And also, of course, it's called Chariot, so it is a card that has a direct correlation to a tarot card. So let's just have a look and see if we can see what it has to say about this card. The Chariot card has various connotations from the magically mundane to the deeply mystical. On a mundane level, this card indicates travel, inner or outer. But the Chariot is also much more than this. The Chariot is made up of archangelic beings that can lift the human to the threshold of divinity. The closest a human can come to divinity and still live. In the life of a magician, there comes a time when such contact is possible, and it often occurs without warning. It can happen while working in vision or while deep in dreams. This angelic power, the Chariot, is deeply connected with the power of Metatron, the angel that stands at the junction between divinity in its most powerful form and humanity. And we saw Metatron earlier, of course. This card can indicate that the magician is about to step into a powerful arena where the archangelic powers, divine consciousness, and magical humanity all come together in mystical union. The magician is lifted briefly by the divine vehicle of the Chariot to inner paradise and looks upon the power of the divine realm. So, very interesting stuff. So, moving on, because there are 81 cards, of course. Wheel of Fate. Connotations there with the Wheel of Fortune. Wow, Fate Giver. Fate Holder. Fate Taker. Now these three cards, I'm not going to look it up in the book, but what I actually immediately think of is the three fates, the Norns, The one who hands out the thread of life and fate, the one who holds it and weaves it, and the one who cuts it when it's time to be cut. They're very powerful mythological images in here. Mother Earth, Soul, so again thinking of the sun from the tarot, Luna, the moon, gorgeous, place of healing, lovely spiral carvings. Wouldn't you want to just sit on the banks of that river and listen to that water? Inspiration, temple of ancestors, possibly useful for ancestor work, magical temple, River of Dreams. This card makes me think of the Six of Swords in tarot. Gate of the Past. And this next one, I'm smiling because this is one of my favourites. When I first went through the deck, I just was enchanted by this. Home and Hearth. Look at that, a moonlit night, a cosy fire, candlelight, table with a candle, a little white cat. Home and Hearth. Just lovely. Path of Hercules. Challenge of the Gods. That should be challenge, of course, but Challenge of the Gods. Inner Sanctum. Resources. Spirit Guide. Goblin Queen. And Fairy King. So from a kind of, if you were from a witchcraft, Wiccan perspective, the Lady and the Lord perhaps are indicated there. Another one for ancestor work, Blood Ancestor. Ghost. Parasite. Limiter. Staff of the Gods. Regenerator. Foundation. If you're into crystals, something interesting there. Premonition. Now this card makes me think of the Picts with the blue skin and the tattoos. So let me have a look and see what we have to see about premonition. If of course I can find it. I think they are slightly out of order in my deck. I don't know whether that's just the way that they ended up arriving in my deck or whether I got them a bit muddled up. But, oh my goodness, where are we? Premonition. This card depicts an old Celtic magical figure called the Banshee, the fairy woman, also known as the Washer by the Ford. In Irish mythology, the Banshee appears the morning of a battle and washes the clothes of men who are about to die. She gives to whomever she appears a warning about impending doom. Magicians train in a variety of skills. One is divination and another is the use of magic to elicit change. When this card appears in a reading, it warns of some potential disaster that can be averted. The card's position in the layout can indicate the source of the potential disaster, and this information can help the magician head off the incoming problem and sidestep the impact. So that's useful. Amazing. Glamour. Powerful image. Temptation. Scapegoat. Oh, this one is Disease. That's really quite a... Wow. That's quite a difficult image to look at, isn't it? Wow. Magical Attack. Giver of Gifts. Bailiff. When you owe something, you owe something. Wise Teacher. So it makes me think of the Three of Cups. Fellowship. Communication. Seclusion. Another tarot reference here. Hierophant. And perhaps another one, if we think of the Lovers. Union. Child. Elder. Maybe a reference to the Fool here. Idiot. Makes me think of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Occultist. Leader. Man of Nature. Mystic. Male Warrior. Oracle. Priestess Magician. Female Warrior. Healer. Shamaness. Underworld Forest. We've gone into the black now. This is the underworld, of course. Bridge of Death. Another tarot reference. Death. Amazing. And destruction. And that, my friends, is Quareia, the Magician's deck. Very interesting, and you know, I think there's a lot of information in the book about each of these cards and recommendations about how to use them within the in a magical context, and also if one's using them for mundane divination, if you like. So you don't have to use them in a magical context, but clearly they could be used in interesting magical ways. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts on the deck, and if you've got the deck, if you have ever used it in any kind of magical way. And I'd also be interested to know if you've got any particular decks that you do use in a magical context, because I've got some that I want to walk through, but I'm on the lookout for more. And I've got to get more. If I'm going to get them, I need to get them this side of Christmas, because next year is my depth year. I'll also link that one below, and that's all about not buying so many decks and not buying so many books and sinking into a study of what I already have, which is a lot of stuff. So I'll close for now and wish you all a very, very happy whatever you're doing, whatever time of day it is for you or night it is for you. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a nice time, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.